Good evening again, Internet. Today we're going to be discussing the book Brainwashed, The Seductive Appeal of Mindless Neuroscience. It's going to be a little bit of pop sci critique. So I don't know, just off the top of it, just this book is being praised up and down by just so many people. I mean, you just take a look. I mean, the New York Times, the National Review, New Scientist, Nature. Wow, if you get a positive review by Nature, and just some things that pulled me to it. I mean, people like Steven Pinker, Paul Bloom, Raymond Tallis. Wow, those are names that when they come together, that's a really interesting event. And then, you look in the back of the book, you look in the back in the acknowledgments, and oh my God, what do you find there? You find Tamler Summers, Dave Pizarro, the Bad Wizards themselves helped make this book. Wow. How could you pass that up?
The last chapter felt like one of their podcasts.
It really did. It really did. The influence of the Bad Wizards is so there in the last chapter of this book. And it's about free will. And if you've watched any amount of the Bad Wizards, then you know what the position on free will be in the last chapter without us even saying it.
Yeah.
So what do you want to like this? A lot of this book is kind of a critique of our misuse of neuroscience. I don't know what you want to talk about. I think this book, if I was going to make it really simple, has kind of a sustained critique on kind of almost, if I could simplify it, to almost one point that runs continuously through the book, continuously through almost every chapter. And should we just talk about that, or is there something you want to say off?
No, let's talk about that. I think I can probably guess what it is, but please.
So I'm just going to say, I think that what I got out of this is basically the point that comes up in almost every chapter of the book is that what's happening when neuroscience is misused. These people who wrote this book, they're definitely not anti-neuroscience, so they don't think neuroscience is a waste of time by any means. But what they do think is when it's being misapplied because of the level of explanation. The level of explanation necessary for certain types of problems is not to be found at the neuroscience level. It's much better found at different levels of explanation. But people just kind of run to the neuroscience because it just kind of feels right. There's a section in the book, in the law section, where psychologists have done these experiments where people kind of, even if you give them junk science, if you give them things that outright contradict each other on a news story, if you put in like a brain map or add like words, neuroscience pop words, they'll just eat it up because they just instinctively believe in the authority of little images of the brain.
One of the shocking things that neurologists have taught me thanks to this book is that teenagers don't have developed minds and make poor decisions. I couldn't have known that without.
Wait a second. I thought they did have I thought they were just fully in control of their capacities and they make really wise decisions.
Throughout human history, we have thought that way. But thanks to neuroscience, now we know teenagers make bad decisions.
I don't know. I'm just gonna have to wait on that one. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Shocking. I know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's that, but that is actually one point in the book. It's one thing that kind of fits in with their theme, which is there are certain things where the neuroscience isn't going to answer the question we really want answered, or it's not advanced enough to the point where it can answer the question we want it to answer. And there are different explanations that could help us even more. So let's just a little bit, for example, I mean, like the first chapter of like the book is kind of just basic how should I say, like, these journalists who write about neuroscience, a lot of mistakes they make, or things they overblow, or things you should watch out for when some silly journalist writes some article like, oh, your brain scan says XYZ, and they just kind of point out a series of pitfalls for that, right? Why you can't read those things.
Like this area lights up in your brain. That means that you're disgusted by this product or this person, right? Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, but the problem is that's not what it could always mean. I mean, what's interesting, which I already knew already, but I guess the brain is kind of multifunctional, multitasking, right? One region of the brain doesn't correspond to, it's not like a video game. Like one region of the brain doesn't correspond to one emotion per se. A region of the brain can correspond to multiple kinds of emotions and feelings and situations. The brain is just a much more complicated thing than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of times too, like this, they said like a lot of times these brain scans show correlation. They don't show direct causation a lot of times. So that's something you should always remember. They talked about the subtraction technique quite a few times where like they do the imaging and then they kind of try to subtract away all these things. It's interesting. Even I was watching a Zenistrad video just today, and Zenistrad was actually talking about Cordelia Fine's book, The Gender Delusion, where she actually also critiques this subtraction technique, which I guess, according to the guys in these book, the Sally and Scott here who wrote this book, they say people are moving away from this subtraction technique to more pattern analysis. But the subtraction technique is definitely not perfect, apparently. And there's a bunch of other ones, like the design of the experiments can be highly flawed sometimes. fMRI doesn't measure brain cell action per se. It measures different things like, and there's a gap. There's kind of a 2-second gap between the blood flow and the neuronal activity. So there's this lag in between.
I was also interested to know that it was interesting to note that like these brain scans are kind of an amalgamate of like, tons of like 50, 60, 70, 80 people. So it's not telling you when you see that brain scan, it's not one guy's brain scan. It's the kind of average of like all these other people. But that's the funny thing is it's the average, right? But it can make what is normal or what can fall within the parameters of a normal seem odd compared to this amalgamate of everyone else's, right? For example, like the average person in America, what does it say, is 5'9". But I mean, people in America can be 6'1" or 6'3" or something, right? I mean, but if you were to show the scan of a human being and it said 5'9", and then you show this other guy with like a 6'3", you'd be like, oh my God, he's diseased or something, right? I mean, right. That would be the same equivalency. Like, well, I mean, then when you start showing brain scans of individual people and you say, well, look how different this is than that. I mean, it's hard to, unless you're a scientist, it's hard to know like what falls within the range of, I don't know, acceptable brain patterns or acceptable kind of fluctuations in here, or what exactly should be lighting up and what shouldn't be lighting up. I mean, it's just so complicated and so uncertain. It seems barely usable for a lot of the things they're trying to use it for.
Definitely, yeah. There's all they come with just a litany of these possible problems with these experiments. And, I guess there's a bunch of blogs too, like neurobunk blogs, and a lot of these professional people, neuroscientists, they kind of laugh at some of these stories that are cooked up in the press when something comes out. And let's just take it into the book a little bit with my idea about like the levels of explanation. The second, like when it gets into like how this neuroscience is used in real life, it gets into something that is called like neuromarketing.
This was interesting.
Probably I like this too. Yeah.
Probably the second chapter and the last chapter were the most interesting for me.
Yeah.
I just love the second chapter for many reasons, mostly because it disgusted me.
Yes. All right. I definitely want to get into that. I guess, like, let's just say, like, these neuromarketing guys, I just like how succinctly they put it in the book. They say the neuromarketers believe The immediate neural responses are inherently more authentic and predicative of consumer behavior than kind of this conscious reflection or the other methods that we've been using to predict consumer behavior. This is their firm belief, right? And so these two, they kind of go in and try to take this apart a little bit. I like how they did it. They kind of divided it into two questions. The first question would be something like, can measuring brain function directly predict sales or advertising success better than existing methods? And they said to some extent, yes. You can like show someone an ad and like you can see that they got excited. But there's a lot of caveats, a ton of caveats. I really like when they talking about commercials and things like this, how they said like, what's showing up in the mind is sometimes not what's on the screen. It's what's being expected to come up on the screen next. And like they give these stories of like these people who just naively read these brain scans and just flopped, predicting the future of like Super Bowl ads and things like this, because they couldn't quite tease out what was happening in their brain. They didn't know how these people were reacting to the ads, really. They just assumed like, oh, section A lit up, good. Section B lit up, bad. This ad, bad.
It's a checklist. It's a checklist.
Check. No section B ads, right? Then the second question was kind of more along the lines of, can neuromarketing influence consumer behavior strongly enough to alter your behavior to such extent that like it's almost like a violation of your autonomy? And here they kind of firmly come down and say, well, at this point anyway, not at all. Maybe never. But they don't know. But I just want to bring in my levels thing, which is the point here is this, right? Looking at the level of the brain is not enough to garner consumer behavior, because consumer behavior is not only something that happens in your brain, it's something that happens socially. It's something that happens with your mood, right? It's something that happens maybe when you're tired from working hard one day, you'll buy something different. There are multiple levels of explanation of consumer behavior, and not simply the one that's going on right here. And it can't, this just aiming at this one can't generate the kind of influence that you would imagine, like they'd create these walking consumer zombies. I think was kind of the bulk of the attack here.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I also agree with their final analysis that, whatever tricks they're going to try, it hasn't been enough to make me into a walking zombie yet. But what I found most interesting was that the lack of morals and scruples on these people are just, it's mind blowing, right? I mean, like, they're convinced that there's a buy button in someone's mind, and if they can just find the technique or the trick to get people to just buy, just to subconsciously want to buy something, they're more than willing to do it, right? Just think if we were created in such a way that if you just snuck something into a commercial, we would be like just frothing at the mouth to buy it. We wouldn't even know why, right? I mean, they want that. That's what they were looking for, right? And they didn't even hide this. They're like, we're looking for the buy button. And basically, we just mean we're looking for ways to basically manipulate you more effectively. And shucks, we haven't done it yet. I mean, these people are frightening. They're monstrously frightening to me. They have no scruples or morality. Like, yeah, if there's just some way we could circumvent your rationality, that'd be great. Yeah, just put that on my desk by Friday. We're working on it. I mean, it's just, isn't it frightening to know that there are teams of people with millions and maybe billions of dollars at their disposal working every day to try to circumvent your rationality? Isn't that a frightening thing? Right? They're looking every day. They're taking brain scans. They're looking at your eyes. They're trying to see your product associations, and they can do it to a certain extent, right? They know full well that if they make a product black, it looks classy. and refined or something, and they know how to make supermarkets so that you have to go in the fresh fruit first, right? So you have this idea that it's fresh, and they know how to brand associate Coca-Cola with whatever they're gonna do it, the Pepsi with the youth, Coke with I don't know, polar bears, but like
And Santa.
I mean, they know what they're doing, and to a certain extent, they can work their magic at to a certain level, right?
Mm.
I mean, it's not to say it's totally ineffective, but the frightening thing to me is if they could, they would. Right? They're not even like hiding it. Like, yeah, we would be more than happy to just jump right underneath your rational mind and just talk right to the subconscious. That would be great.
Push that buy button.
Yeah, I thought this chapter was just frightening, shocking, and disgusting on so many levels.
So yeah, I was really surprised too that how gung ho they were. And it sounds like a lot of these. This is going to come back later too. A lot of these companies too are strangely, I mean, maybe just for a lot of reasons, but they're kind of unwilling to tell the academic world at large what they're doing. They're unwilling to submit their procedures to like rigorous testing. So, I mean, like these guys, the people in the Brainwashed book, they don't know. They really don't know what some of these companies are doing because they simply won't tell them. And they won't tell the academic world, and they won't submit to the rigor of academia.
Yeah, but the reason for that is they don't want anyone stealing their method for tricking you.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not even like they're like better informing you.
Yeah, right.
Like, no. Like, they think that they've got. I mean, they might be wrong, but they think that they've got a method for tricking your brain, and they got to keep that secret, right? Isn't that the most disgusting thing? I mean, like, shouldn't we be angry about that a little? No,
that's just advertised.
I mean, like, granted, I mean, like, everything you create, movies and stuff. I mean, all the movies, especially Stanley Kubrick. I mean, he's like a genius at doing this, like manipulating and any kind of horror movie should kind of, even though they'll play imperceptible sounds to make you feel uneasy, or make shadows pass by the screen to make you feel afraid, and you don't quite know why, but that's a movie. Okay, I can dig that. I really enjoy that. When it's somebody that's like, yeah, I really want you to buy my product even if you don't need it or want it.
Yeah.
But then it starts to be like, well, okay, something unethical is going on here.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that we are not designed in such a way that they can do it. But the frightening thing is they wish they could. Right? I mean, who are these people? They're lunatics. They're insane. Like, we wish we could do it. Like, really? Okay. All right.
Damn your resistance to our products.
How dare you? But don't worry, they've got billions to spare. They're not stopping. And they know exactly what they're doing. I mean, they've got methods, right? And they're going to try and figure it out one day.
Yeah.
And sleep soundly.
Yeah, they're working on that.
I mean,
don't you worry.
They know color associations and brain patterns, and okay, thank God it's not as good as they think it is. So, okay, we dodged a bullet there, people. The brain is more complicated than stupid advertisers want it to be.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even say that. They're actually really, some of these people are geniuses, right? I mean, they're mad geniuses with sometimes, I think, no scruples at all. But there they are. And, maybe they're doing us a service. They're really looking into a lot of things. They won't share the results with us. But
exactly. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Scary stuff. That was my feeling about chapter 2.
It starts kind of on a scary level, and then then it moves into chapter 3, which it was really interesting to me. I'm not going to say a lot about the meat and potatoes of chapter 3. I don't feel confident enough to say a lot about the meat and potatoes about chapter 3, but chapter 3 is kind of a sustained attack on the idea that addiction is a brain disease, and
Right.
using the language of brain disease to talk about addiction.
Or or at least addiction, it does not stand on the same level as schizophrenia.
Yeah, right. It's like not something like where it doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna get schizophrenia. I mean, there's literally, you have no say in the matter, right? You could be asleep or unconscious, it's gonna happen. Or whatever thing you like. They talk about like taking a medicine. Like when you take a medicine, it doesn't matter the state you're in, it's gonna work, right? But it's not like addiction where actually you are still open to being influenced by consequences, by rational decision planning, by self-binding. Hey, Paul Bloom, I know you put that in there, Paul Bloom. I know you love talking about self-binding. You talked about it in The Atlantic. You talked about it in your class. I know you love self-binding. I know you told those guys to put it in there. So self-binding was in there.
This is landmine territory here, though.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, there's one thing like these guys who talk about addiction as a brain disease, and they say you can't just turn it off, right? You can't tell an addict, turn off your cravings. In a weird way, though. Okay, right? Like let's say that their attack is on target here. I mean, in the sense that you can't turn off the cravings. Those guys are right. The brain disease guys are right. You can't turn off the cravings. The cravings come just due to the nature of how the drugs take over your reward pathways, and you come to treat them as though they were like food or sex, like a need, like those things. The cravings themselves, you have little to no say in. But I guess that the problem is like when they throw in the facts like you're not always craving. That's not true, right? A large part of your life is spent outside of the craving. And also recovery from addiction, apparently, looking at the numbers, is recovering is the norm. Recovering is the norm. Not recovering is what's like on the edge of the statistics more than recovering.
Very surprising to me.
Me too. When I saw the numbers, I was like, wow. So most people do recover from addiction, like from really strong drugs too. And they talked about like these guys in Vietnam and stuff. But I mean, I think, again, bringing back my idea about the core of the critique of this book is the idea of levels. And basically, I think one of the really powerful things they're trying to say in this is that focus on addiction as a brain disease simply isn't as effective in treatment as treating at the level of the person. And they go into a lot of stories about how many times addiction is born out of almost coping with environmental, like something beyond your brain, outside the level of the brain. And like how these guys in Vietnam were addicted to drugs, but leaving Vietnam, leaving that environment, they were able to kind of leave behind their addiction too. Most of them were. A large chunk of them were able to do that, right?
But which one's easier to do? Change the environment or drug people up?
I suppose it depends on how much money I'm going to put in R&D.
Oh, okay. Well, Batman has made his choice. And his idea is fists, but a lot of people's idea is, well, we can't change your environment, so drugs.
Drugs, yeah.
Drugs it is.
Drugs it is. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel confident saying any more than that, other than, like these two know quite a bit about this field of addiction. They worked with addicts in the past. And their assessment is treating addiction as a brain disease is not very conducive to recovery, and it's working at the wrong level for a lot of people. And it's actually short-circuiting things that they say short-circuiting things that it could be helping these people. Short-circuiting ideas like self-binding, which could help people.
But without a doubt, these people do have powerful cravings.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're kind of washed away by the will. They can't will to will.
Yes.
So the will kind of washes them, and they get kind of sucked up in this tide. So let's never forget that they are, at the very least, we can say they're battling powerful cravings.
Right. I mean, you know,
and they deserve sympathy for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, I got my sour cream and onion Pringles right here. I know I shouldn't be eating them. So, you know, I succumb to sour cream and onion Pringles. I mean, come on. That's nowhere near the kind of struggle you would have to come to with, like, you're like addicted to cocaine or something. So yeah, I mean, all the sympathy in the world for fighting something like that, and how tough it must be to escape that. And that's not saying that there aren't people who are on the extreme end, like so incapacitated that they really do need to be treated like patients in a hospital kind of thing. They point this out too. But, so I don't know. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about the addiction chapter?
No, it's very interesting. Although I'm not as much of an expert as I need to say more. I find addiction actually fascinating. It's one of the things I think is fundamental. Maybe it's one of the things fundamental to life today. And I wish they would have brought addiction back to the biologist in the second chapter. I think that modern companies are coming to the conclusion that the best way to run their products is to make them addictive.
Mm.
You know, they're making these kind of, I don't know, Candy Crush type games, or whatever it is. They're like the rat gets the cheese and the shock sometimes. I mean, they're making games basically to addict you. They're making food to addict you. I mean, it seems like one of these run right into each other. I mean,
yeah, and almost like convincing you to do things in small enough increments so that you don't see what's happening on the larger scale, which is what they brought up in the addiction chapter.
Yeah.
But like, it would be the same sort of thing. Like, you'd be using Candy Crush all the time without ever realizing that you're just constantly using Candy Crush.
It kind of feels like that is the preferred method of salesmanship these days, that they want to make an addictive product. It seems like that's kind of taking over a lot of areas of consumer products, and it worries me. So again, I feel like chapter 2 scares me. Sorry. Yeah. We're on chapter 3, and I'm still talking about chapter 2.
All right. Chapter 4 was about lie detection, which is interesting. I really don't have a lot to say about chapter 4 too. Basic, I mean, the whole thing boiled down to, like, there really is no evidence that we can do this very well, outside the lab anyway. And there are a bunch of companies who claim they can use their brain imaging techniques to pull this off, but they're unwilling to submit to testing. So we don't know what they're doing. But as far as we can gather, it's a hell of a lot more difficult than these people let on. And there are infinite types of lying. They could have different types of neural patterns. So we really don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, or how to get the truth drug working. So, I mean, like the polygraph, apparently, you know, it's already kind of a flawed idea a little bit. Yeah. I mean, so like when Daredevil's got you up on the roof, and, you know, he's punching out a bad guy, and he's like, "Who do you work for?" And he's like, "I can tell if you're lying." And then he listens to his heartbeat, and then he says the name, and if the heartbeat is kind of a low rate, he knows, okay, he told me he worked for Fisk. Okay, he's telling the truth. Okay, but actually what Daredevil found out was that he was calm. Right? He didn't actually know if the bad guy was telling the truth or not. He just, all he figured out was that his heart was beating slow.
It's a good thing I prepared a couple days before saying the word Fisk.
Right. I mean, like, if the bad guy had prepared his answer beforehand, he could say his lie with a very calm heart rate. But if it's on the spur of the moment lie, apparently in the brain too, it works harder to make on the lies on the spur of the moment, and your heart kind of pumps a little faster on the spur of the moment. But practiced lies can come off very calmly. And actually, like, I liked what it said, like just like pinching your toes or biting your tongue.
Yeah.
Can so confuse our machines that it can't tell you if you're lying anymore if you're just doing something else to distract you.
Yeah.
Right.
That was really interesting.
Right. And isn't it? It's so easy. That's a technique for everyone that's going up in the polygraph test or something, right? Or
Yeah,
getting a
yeah.
brain
Yeah,
scan,
getting a brain scan. Just start, yeah,
biting your tongue or curling your toes or
curling your
something.
toes. Like every once in a while, they'll just be totally screwed up.
Yeah. Apparently, that's enough to throw off these brain scans, and now we just don't know what you're saying. That's that's really infallible science we're working with here. Don't curl your toes.
Gotta subtract away the toe curling section.
Yeah, don't bite your tongue a little. That would be weird. Apparently, just distracting yourself a little bit can, I don't know, stop whatever they're looking at from firing off at the level they want to see it fired off at, which doesn't even guarantee really anything anyway. And also, you don't know if you believe the lie or not. But wow, there's so many things that can go wrong here. I'm just disappointed to know that Daredevil was just beating people to a pulp on a roof and then just listening to their heartbeat, and the only thing he found out was that their heartbeat was beating. That was it. I mean, maybe he found out the truth. Maybe they were just telling the truth because they're so scared of him.
Yeah,
It's probably one of those things. So, all right, for those, I'm watching Daredevil recently. Anyway,
Netflix.
Netflix. All right, so I don't really have much to say about chapter 4. Actually,
I did like how they transitioned from chapter 4 to chapter 5, though, where they talked about how it's even like there are conceptual problems we need to work through. Like, what does a brain scan count as? And like, let's say somebody's on trial and you scan their brain. Does that count as physical evidence, or does that count as testimonial? And they're not quite sure which it counts as. And you're not required to give evidence that incriminates you. So in some aspects, physical evidence they can just take, right? But which is it then? Can you incriminate yourself with your own brain? So like they're leading in. I think this is a slow transition into the next chapter, chapter 5, which is going to start posing ethical issues. And then it's going to hit its peak in chapter 6, where everything kind of comes together in the realm of philosophy.
Yeah. Do we need to talk about 5? I think 6 is where the action is.
6, I mean, really 5, the bulk of 5 is about 6. It really is. But let's see. What do I have here for chapter 5? A lot of this, yes, this is going to fall right into chapter 6, where like a lot of these people are kind of like, well, if there is a biological cause, that means you're not responsible. But that's not how the law treats responsibility.
Yeah. Finally, let's get to some philosophy here.
Yeah, we're really moving into the realm of philosophy as we move into law here. And I guess just let's see. Just on my theme of levels, like again, levels fits in here when they say right now at our current state of neuroscience, it just simply cannot distinguish between people who could not control themselves from those who did not control themselves, and also from people who tried and wrestled their impulses to the ground. We just can't make this picture clear at all yet. So I think that kind of what they wanted to say is like they brought up the case of Andrea Yates, who killed her kids. Like, this would have been better handled, or we can get a clearer picture working on a different level right now anyway. Talking to her, giving her psychoanalysis, maybe getting her into a hospital, right? Like, there's nothing we could really do at this point with her brain.
Apparently what she had doesn't even show up on.
Yeah. I mean, and like just demanding that we focus on the level of the brain would give us no help for Andrea Yates. We just need different levels of explanation, at least by necessity for her right now. But this is leading into
chapter 6. Finally, let's talk about philosophy.
Yeah.
All right. So thank God. Time for philosophy. Now it's our version of the bad wizards. So we're not bad people. We're just bad wizards. So we might as well just do it. If we want to pretend we're like Paul Bloom or something. And, we're like, okay, did you know about this guy named Charles Joseph Whitman? We went to the University of Texas, and he killed in 1966, August 1st, he went onto a tower and he shot and killed 16 people from the top of the tower. Infamous case. And later, the doctors took him out of the tower, examined his brain, and found a massive tumor inside of his head. He wrote a note before he went up to go shooting all those people. I kind of love this note. I do not quite understand what it is that compels me to type this letter. Perhaps it is to leave some vague reason for the actions I have recently performed. I do not really understand myself these days. I am supposed to be an average, reasonable, and intelligent young man. However, lately, I have been a victim of many unusual and irrational thoughts. So basically, I don't know. The tumor kind of took control of his mind, and he became a killer. And I guess this is kind of the end product of this thinking is basically, well, look at the universe. Everything you see in it has a cause, right? Everything is caused by something else. Yes. Okay. Well, you're in the universe, right? Yes. Well, that means everything you do is caused by something else physically. Therefore, what's to be responsible for? There's a cause for everything you do.
Yeah.
What's to say that all criminals aren't just suffering from a mild tumor of some kind or other?
Yeah. It's tumors all the way down.
It's tumors all the way down,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
Sam Harris would say. I mean, this is it. This is the final attack here. But okay, so I mean, like, I'm not gonna get much sympathy, kind of quoting New Atheists. I think. So let's just choose a different guy to quote. Somebody you might be a little more shocked to hear. This is from The Gay Science. Or we'll start with Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It's on the Pale Criminal. And he says, enemy, you should say, but not villain. Sick man, you should say, but not scoundrel. Fool, you should say, but not sinner. For Nietzsche, there was he was very against punishment. He kind of found punishment is kind of masked, I don't know, violence, a kind of a masked excuse for violence. I love what he said in The Gay Science in 219. He said, the purpose of punishment is to improve the one who punishes. That is the last resort of the apologists for punishment. Okay, so what's the last chapter of this book about?
Punishment.
It's all about punishment, right? Why do we punish? What's the purpose of punishment?
Yeah.
Right? How do we justify punishing people?
Yeah.
I mean, like, we can ask Nietzsche asks us that question. It's a very compelling question. Why punish? Why?
Yeah.
What's the point?
I mean, I do. I kind of like that Nietzsche quote too, but because they get into this in the book a little bit. I mean, this is, I'm sure, where Temler was definitely stepping in and giving them some points where, like, you kind of get these utilitarians, even like somebody like feels like Sam Harris is along would go along this kind of lines where, like, all of this quote unquote punishment would not really be punishment per se. It would be aimed at the improvement of society.
Right. It's a utilitarian punishment, right? We punish the people to shape future behavior, right?
Yeah.
To tell the community what to do in the future.
Yeah.
However, like, all this is done without, for say, blame for the criminal, right? I mean, like, in this kind of super future, there is no blame anymore. We don't blame criminals for what they do. They are sick. They're malfunctioning, or maybe they're just foolish. But we don't. I mean, the point is, we don't need blame.
Yeah.
The point is, what's the point of blame? They were caused to do that. They couldn't have done any other way. And even if that's true, what's the point? Why are we purposely taking our pound of flesh? What does that do for us? why do we need to be this violent? And maybe some of these people say we don't. Punishment can be done, but not for the reasons. There is no retributive justice necessary. All we need to do is to punish simply to project what course we should go to in the future. Yes, they can support punishment, but not because they should be blamed for it, or that they're wrong, or that the people are responsible.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they get this really interesting example in the book. I liked, where they said, like, you know, like there's a rapist, and he goes and he rapes somebody, and like this kind of utilitarian super future police force catches him, and you're like, oh yeah, that really sucks having that kind of brain structure. So we're just going to inject you with some Castrex.
Yeah. And
boom, injected with Castrex, you're fine. It's not going to happen again. Go on home, buddy. Right? Yeah. It's all done. Society is saved.
Yeah.
And that would be the end of it. Really, he had no say in becoming the rapist, and now we're just going to zap him with Castrex, and he's back to normal. The victim is kind of removed. It's still, the victim is still there, but in a very loose sense, in the sense that maybe she's part of society. But there's no like punishments
in that future, right? It wouldn't even be necessary per se to do the kind of punishment like putting him in jail anymore. But the punishment was giving him Castrex.
Yeah, then that's it. I mean, it's done.
I mean, like, then the question would be, okay, so you're unhappy with him getting fixed. Why?
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong? Like, the problem's solved. Okay, let's go home. It's over. Right? All right, we're done.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have any say in being a rapist.
Yeah.
It was just a chemical imbalance, and now he's cured.
He's a sick man. Now he's cured. And what would be the point in punishing him anymore? Right? He didn't choose to be the way he did. And what purpose does it serve anyway? Okay, time to move on, everyone. I don't think anyone would like the end of that movie, though. They would really hate that movie.
Yeah. That would be a very unpopular movie.
And then I guess the end of this book is these two, Sally and Scott, are trying to defend retributive justice, basically. They're trying to tell us, well, taking our pound of flesh serves a purpose. And they give us various reasons for that. I can list them all. I don't know if you have anything to say about them. Do you want me to list them?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, like, I love how they say balancing the ledger, because that's what it is. Nietzsche, I love how Nietzsche talks about it in the same way.
Yeah.
It's a debt that has to be paid. But I mean, they list, these are the reasons, most of them that I dug out was, when you don't punish them, when you don't punish the offender, then victims feel unavenged and therefore devalued and dishonored.
Yeah.
Themselves, they feel like they've been dishonored. So they have this kind of intuition of having honor, and that has to be taken back. And not because society is supposed to get better because of it. No, it's because they have to pay them back that pain.
Yeah.
And the next is victims pay. Mixed victims might contemplate private retaliation, right? In other words, the law itself is beginning to be undermined, right? What if we don't punish these rapists, and not just giving them Castrex, but I don't know, putting them in jail for 20 years? Well, then, if they don't do that, they're going to get together, mob them, and kill them. Yeah. Or, and also one of the interesting ones, and one of the disturbing ones as well, punishing people, that restores the social standing of the victims. So often when bad things happen to people, everyone tends to blame the victim. If the criminal is not punished, then it makes it seem like the victim deserved the attack.
It's the just world hypothesis, linking this back to our last video, by the way.
This is the just world hypothesis in all its disgusting glory. Well, that just means you deserved it, right? Yeah. So punishment can restore that dignity and social standing that those victims lost. Then next, the legal system will suffer if it's not enforced, right? Again, it gets corrupted. The system will seem unfair. People begin to disobey it if it's not enforced. Intuitions about justice are strong motivators for social change. Right? Our thirsting for justice is what's prompted us to a more fair and better society. These are some of the big ones. There's another one about without any kind of sense of responsibility or blame, we'd have no forgiveness or redemption, which would mean the end of Star Wars would just make no sense, right? Darth Vader, what's going on? Redemption, forgiveness, I don't understand. So we would stop understanding the end of Star Wars.
Oh no.
So again, so all these reasons, right? So Sally and Scott here give all these reasons, and again, let me quote Nietzsche again. The purpose of punishment is to improve the one who punishes. That is the last resort of the apologists for punishment. So every one of these reasons I gave that they gave here was basically, yeah, punishment makes us better. I mean, like, isn't it amazing that Nietzsche got this just dead on the nose 200 years ago, well, 150.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he guessed their answer 150 years ago in a kind of castaway little aphorism.
Okay.
It made me laugh. Like, well, why? Like, I think ultimately, and I want to hear your opinion on this. The answer is, well, why do we need to punish people? Why do we need to make people feel pain for what they've done? And the answer to this question is because we're apes. Yeah. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Because we're apes.
Basically, that's what it boils down to.
Because we're animals and basically apes, and apes have this kind of innate sense of fairness.
Yeah.
So
thanks, Paul Bloom. No.
I mean, that's their answer.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, in a way, I'm torn by that answer though. I could just see the immediate reply being like, well, if we just simply straightened everything else out, if we just simply got everyone on the right page, we wouldn't have to deal with our apiness.
Right. I mean, like,
tall order.
Right. I mean, like, ultimately, like, I get what they're saying. Like, well, just because, I mean, there's no reason to say just because you couldn't choose to do something, doesn't mean you don't deserve blame for it.
Yeah.
Right. The Greek tragedies are great examples of this, right? I mean, like, these people were basically almost fated into their tragedies, and yet they blame themselves. So it's very possible to have blame for something that you had no control over, and that's just something that we have an intuition for. Ultimately, what deserves blame and what doesn't deserve blame, that can't be scientifically measured. That's just a concept that we have, right? It can be changed, and it can change with us over time. So, you know, we feel that when people willingly and have certain control of the reason willingly do these things, caused or not, they deserve punishment, and we deserve our pound of flesh. And that's it, right? And they're just intuitions, and we have these intuitions. So yeah, right. You can't scientifically explain away these intuitions, and you can't scientifically say that that's a wrong intuition. There's no way to say that. Okay, so I mean, like, do you find any disagreement so far with
how you're presenting it?
Yeah, with what they're saying, basically. I mean, I just want to give them the fairest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of where.
I mean, this is what the bad wizards end up doing every single time too. They're kind of like, well, you know, and they all come down to the end of the day. Well, it just comes down to moral intuitions, you know.
Yeah, that's this Tamler. Yeah, Tamler.
Yeah, Tamler, right? Well, it's all just
loves his talk of moral intuitions. Yes,
all a bunch of moral intuitions. So if we have the intuition that you can be punished for it, well, who's to say? Who's to say if that intuition is wrong or right? It's just an intuition.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. I'm not going to be some kind of Platonist and say, well, justice is right next to the number 2. I'm going to be more Hegel. Justice comes into the world. It can change over time. This is perfectly acceptable to me. However, I have one question. What gives us the right to tell people to ignore their intuitions on purity, and then say the next minute they can't ignore their intuitions on fairness?
Yeah.
By what right?
Oh boy. Now you're getting to by what right?
Well, I mean, Tamler would probably be the first one to say, like, well, just because you think gays are disgusting,
yeah, it doesn't
it
mean.
doesn't mean that they can't do, just you can't let them live and live and let live here.
Yeah.
But he'd be like, but we have these intuitions. We have these intuitions about fairness. Well, okay. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And?
I mean, but it works. It boils down to kind of these some of these disgust intuitions that people have, or however you want to frame it, reactions, feelings, intuitions, moral intuitions. The disgust ones are, I don't know. I feel like they're not as reliable over a larger amount of time for like gaining what you want to gain out of things, right? It feels like the disgust intuition, I guess, wow, it undercuts a more important moral intuition, which would be something along the lines of people demand to be treated fairly in in similar situations.
Oh, you typical liberal, you. You're telling me that fairness matters more than purity. Well,
yeah, I mean,
isn't that nice?
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's where I'm going with this. But I mean, it would seem like it would just seem like the I don't know. I just want, oh boy, I'm totally not a liberal, but I'm just gonna say that it seems like let's say like I handed back a series of tests. Like everyone came to class and took a test in my class, and I returned the tests all randomly marked. Right? It like seems like people will be standing up with their pitchforks in hand, ready to kill me. But I don't know if I guess like the disgust intuition doesn't seem to be as valuable as that one. No, I mean
Okay, so great. You're telling me that having disgust makes for a worse society. Okay, yeah. I'll agree with you. I'll even give you that. All right, granted. Okay, so now listen to my argument.
Okay,
you are disgusting because you want to punish people for no reason.
With this little wisdom of disgust coming in here.
I use that ironically, but it would be a better society, and one that I mean, it's possible to argue that it would be a better society if we could just use Castrex.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see someone arguing that it's a scary society, but you're sick.
So, I mean, I guess, how should I say, like, what if I just came back with this then? Like, I mean, it might be a better society, but that would be at the cost of valuing the individual, wouldn't it?
The individual's what?
The individual as being of some sort of import. Like for just for example, like maybe like all of these things would be geared toward this, like the punishments would all be geared toward the improvement of society. But
that's utilitarian punishment. We're not talking about
that. Okay.
We're talking about punishing people to make them feel bad.
Well, I'm just interested.
Sam Harris here, right? We're arguing. Chapter 6 is, well, we're not Sam Harris.
We're not Sam Harris. Yeah.
I mean, Sam Harris might say, well, we need utilitarian punishment because we got to make a better society. But no, we need a pound of flesh.
We need, yeah. It gets. Yeah. All right, let me just see what you do with this. I just want to let me just throw this right at you here, and I just want to see what you would say then. On that same topic, then, like let's go non Sam Harris and talk about the weight of the individual.
Okay.
So let's just dig into compatibilism here. Let's just take a real big compatibilist knife here and say the reason why these people should get punished, deserve to get punished, is because that is who they are. That is who they are at the most fundamental level. If they are responsible under compatibilist criteria, we are judging those actions to be in line with those values that you hold, and that is who you are. So these actions are under your control. Of course, compatibilism allowing for determinism to be true, to the extent that one says control now.
So you were the rusted windmill, like pointed in the right direction of rape.
Yeah. Right. Basically, yeah. I like the rusted windmill. Wow, you're taking it back. You're really taking it back. Yes.
Philosophy 101.
Philosophy 101. Yes, the windmill is rusted in the east, but the wind is blowing in the east. So is the windmill pointing in the right direction? So, but no, I guess. But I mean, like at the most fundamental level, let's say then, like, you took this other line and said, like, I'm not going to punish you because literally you don't exist. That's not who you are. There is no you to be punished.
You've achieved enlightenment, sir.
Yeah. I just think the price would be it would be at some level
the death of the individual.
Yeah.
To be individuals, we need to punish other people.
That's where it gets tough. Do we really need to punish? Like, see, okay, like, so the problem is, like, I just don't want this to get non-nuanced and say, like, we have to give the death penalty for littering. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like the penalties could be lowered too. It feels like the penalties could be lowered too. But I don't know. I mean, to a certain extent, don't you think, like, by giving the punishment, by giving the reward of punishment to the criminal,
you are sick, sir.
Are you not then also giving him the responsibility for anything else he does?
You're giving him his fake responsibility? How kind.
Yeah. Thank you. I know. I'm wise and godly like that.
So as long as we're like, hey, we're playing a game over here.
Yeah.
Didn't you get it?
You didn't get it.
Yeah. You thought that we were like all like, just rusted windmills or, but no, but the wind is blowing in this direction. So
yeah.
You didn't get it. We're playing a game over here. We're pretending that we're like uncaused people held up by our ankles and dipped into the world, right? I mean, there's nothing causing anything, right? We're just into the world of freedom. And, hey, I'll give you that gift too. I give you the great gift of a lie. So you can pretend too that you are a person.
I guess so. Oh boy. Okay, then let's do it. Let's I'm gonna be all Mr. Compatibilist here.
Okay.
But is it a lie?
Okay. Oh well.
Is it a lie? Oh, boom! Right there. Is that a lie? Is it a lie to say that you are not responsible, even though you're caused?
Oh no! I mean, that just depends on our intuitions, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, I'm going to grant all of that. Like that. Responsibility is basically whatever. It's going to ultimately be whatever we make it. However, that our intuitions change with time as we change as human beings and become more self-aware. thus leading up to the absolute. And eventually we're going to come, and in the world, you know, the object and the notion are going to become one, and then everything's going to be okay. Obviously. But I mean, our notion of
course.
I mean, like, our notion of responsibility can change over time too. So what if I was like Nietzsche standing on a mountain looking down on you and saying, you know, hey, what have you done to overcome man today? And, you know, other than have your box of Wheaties, I mean, what have you done to become Superman? One of the things Nietzsche might ask you is, well, I don't know. Maybe you should think twice about your need for blood.
Oh yeah.
I mean, is that an unreasonable question?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I think it's definitely not an unreasonable thing to ask. I mean, like I said, I don't want, you know, I mean, if I'm not fighting for the death penalty for littering here.
Well, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, like, I get it. I mean, I find myself on the side here. I understand that every one of these things they say is true. But I just don't want to fall into this dangerous area of like, well, we have these intuitions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most dangerous place in the world to be, because then all it takes is one Republican to say, well, I have this intuition about gay people.
Yeah. I mean, it can't just be, well, we have intuitions. Everybody has intuitions.
I mean, it could even be, but it's worse. It's that these are universal intuitions.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, this is what's giving them force, right? These are universal human intuitions, right? Feels like we're like in 1800s in the UK or something, right? Like, universal human natural reason. This is just natural reason. But, well, I mean, like, but so is purity. Purity is a universal human intuition. So what gives us the right to say, you lowly scum, how dare you rely on your purity? Well, in the same hand saying, well, we need our pound of blood. I mean, come on. It's like Thursday and I haven't seen anyone punished. I mean, jeez. Explode over here.
If this would mean the loss of Judge Judy, I'm sorry. The idea is totally
well, I do too. Get off on justice porn, right? I mean,
oh god, yeah.
Who doesn't get off on seeing someone get their?
I do love my revenge stories and my justice porn and.
I mean, like, yeah, this is just what it is to be human, perhaps. And maybe if you were to say to me, well, getting rid of that makes us inhuman. Like, we would cease to be human. I might have to give you that. Right? But what have you done to overcome man today?
Oh, yes. Nietzsche Wheaties is. Yeah. I love your Nietzsche Wheaties. That's true. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not like we have to literally knife people every time they commit crimes. Too. I mean, we could, but I mean. And I mean,
like, isn't it amazing? They're like, hey, wasn't it interesting that people are really infatuated with the punishment fitting the crime?
Yeah.
You know, like when the slave owner gets the slave gets their feet like all messed up, the appropriate end of the movie is that the guy that did that to the slave, he should get his foot messed up.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. Where have I heard that? I think it was something like an eye for an eye. I don't.
That sounds like a really great moral intuition. We should build a code of justice based on that moral intuition.
Hey, we could like later pass that on to an entire cruel and unforgiving empire.
Yeah. I almost kind of feel pushed back to just the idea that like literally we do have to improve society. Like, you know what I mean? Like by adding like just incompatible as terms, adding like these weights. It reminds me of Schopenhauer too.
Yeah.
Adding these weights into punishments to sway the will of people toward some direction that will be a better society, a more free for society for us all. Yeah, I mean, like just punishment just for the sake of like you deserve that.
Yeah, okay. But come on, you know you like it.
Oh, I do love it. I love it. Like yes, I love it. But I mean, it's quite open to how much of that I really need. I can play really great video games where that happens.
Don't touch my fantasies, man.
Yeah, I have a right to the inside of my head.
I can imagine anything I want. You've become Jordan.
Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
just tell the person who got raped by that rapist, just play a video game. Yeah, I'm sure that'll
be enough.
I mean, it's case closed.
Yeah, this is my like dystopian future where like
oh sure, yeah, I know that happened. Here's a video game. We gave him Castrex, so go back to work as soon as you can. You know, I've just got wondering, in this kind of weird utilitarian world, did they develop some sort of like weird like pleasure drug or surgery so that like her memory is erased or something? What if like the memory were like wiped somehow?
Wow.
It's like it seems like your intuition would change. Wow.
Yeah.
It's such a bad wizards type of conversation. It seems like your moral intuition would change.
It certainly, it does. I just wonder, like, and if we got to this society that wipes memories of past wrongdoings and then gives Castrex to the criminals, like, I'm just worried about what could change. Like, I love this. Actually, it's strange that it is. Intuitions about justice are strong motivations for social change. I mean, what's to stop this society from being like, well, anybody that doesn't conform, you're sick.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, what's going to stop that? I mean, I don't know. Where do those breaks come in? Like, non-conforming is, that's just kind of a sickness.
Yeah.
And then we have a drug for that.
Like every time I go to work and I'm like unhappy, I just go home and I like wipe my memory and I'm like, yeah, work is great, no problem. I don't need to get a promotion. I don't.
Well, there would be no motivation for you. You just wipe your memory every day. There would
just
be
get rid of all my suffering. Yeah, there we go. I wonder what Nietzsche would say about that.
What could change happen? Like, it seems like that pain and suffering might be necessary for, I don't know, some kind of change.
So it's the gift of punishment, like I said.
Yeah, it's
the gift of suffering. It's a gift.
Let me read that aphorism again. The purpose of punishment is to improve those who punish. That is the last resort of the apologists for punishment.
Hey, the guy's suffering. He's the gift to him. He's getting something too.
Okay. The punished are also being rewarded.
Thank you. I said, yeah.
You can tell, like, how, when we punish people, you can tell when they go into the prisons, they always get better. So.
Oh, yeah, so much. Every time they come home, boom, just ready to go back to society. Yeah, that's the point of prisons. I also love, like, I don't know, just on a slightly related topic, I love on the internet how strangely passionate people get about the free will debate. Just scan a couple of Daniel Dennett's talks about free will and just look at the comment section. It's hilarious. Like, it's just hilarious. Like Daniel Dennett, atheist, a horseman of the apocalypse. Woohoo. And here he's talking about like the philosophical position of compatibilism. And like these people are totally missing it, but they're like, I love the change in tone. Immediate, it's like wrong. Like, you're wrong, Santa. Ooh, sick burn. Called him Santa, right? Like, I just like how just revved up. You're like, yeah, Sam Harris showed what an idiot you are. His reply to you. Did you see it? I'm gonna link it right here. Sam Harris, right? It's just so revved up about the free will debate. I mean, probably it's dealing with like Christians.
Well, come on, we all know we love to punish. So
that's true. That's true. Right?
I mean, if there's anything people like to do on the internet, it's hold someone responsible for something. Oh, you are an idiot. How dare you type that? Yeah. That is so stupid, right? I mean,
which totally fits really well with their deterministic beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fits so well. There's no contradiction there. No
contradiction.
It's not like they should be compatibilists or something.
Yeah. All right, and just in time for the end, Jesse comes in acting like a bug. All right. So, he's a bug.
Yeah, he's determined to be a bug.
He's determined to be a bug. All right, and I think that's about all.
Yeah.
I think that's about all we have to say anyway. Yeah. So, let's get out of here. Until next time, I really enjoyed this one. Oh, this is a very current topic in philosophy. So, all right. Stay free, my friends. Stay free.
Stay free.
Yeah,
Stay-
my bug sensors told me that somebody was talking about the free will debate, so
jumped right into the wow. You were determined to do that, Jesse. You weren't free to do that. But I guess we're just gonna finish up. So until next time.
But this is what we call a cameo appearance.
That's just Ken.
Yeah.
What is this? A crossover episode?
Oh,
I'm gonna use that every time.
Peanut Butter.
Yes, I am now Mr. Peanut Butter. Bye. Before we make any more BoJack jokes. Bye.